Hello, and welcome back to the only YouTube channel on the internet. Don't look that up. Don't do it. And if you're new here, welcome, come on in. Well, come on in the door. I'm holding it open for you. Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be sharing my very important, very cool reaction to Fishman Island and One Piece. Before I get into it, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been watching my last One Piece video. It kind of went off a little bit, and I'm not entirely sure why, but thank you if you watched it, and welcome to all my new subscribers. I gained like 300 subscribers or something crazy. Thank you. I very much appreciate it. I didn't think anyone was gonna want to hear me talk about One Piece, but here we are. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy this video too. So, Fishman Island. Ooh, baby. Dude, I loved it. I fucking loved it, man. It wasn't the best arc in One Piece, not by a long shot, but it didn't need to be. It acted very much as a transitional arc in my eyes, because there was a lot of just showing character growth in terms of ability and sort of setting up some future conflicts, and then also diving pretty deep into some lore and some backstories that give context to a lot of things that have already happened in the story. If I had to choose a couple of weak points, and I use weak points loosely because I don't really think of them as weak points, but they were things I didn't enjoy as much, I guess. One, the action was a little lackluster, but mostly that was because the Straw Hats were just kind of stomping on every single enemy that they encountered. I mean, there were some really cool moments, don't get me wrong, and I'll get to those later, but overall the action was pretty much just like, oh, check out my new ability, and then they just actually fucking Sparta kick them into the Shadow Realm. It was never really like a contest, which, whatever. I mean, that was the point, was to show how much stronger they are. I also thought that the villains were pretty weak. They didn't really have anything super special about them. They were pretty much just, I mean, at least the main guy was pretty much just a roid-raging fishman, which wasn't like super interesting, but as I said, that kind of ties into like the action, where the action itself wasn't all that interesting, but it didn't need to be for the purpose of this arc. So I feel like this is a good jumping off point for me to talk about some of the things that I really liked about this arc. Number one, the themes. The way that Oda explored the themes in this arc, chef's kiss. He's at his best thematically here. I really think he just addressed that. It's a really dark theme of racism and of hatred and prejudice. He addressed it from so many different angles. He showed so many different viewpoints and beliefs, and he sort of tied them all back into this central issue that ends up influencing the main plot in a lot of really unique ways. So I think that he truly just dove straight into that theme, and that was sort of the core of this entire arc. Everything revolved around that core, and that's ingenious. I mean, he's done it before, and he pulled it off as masterfully as he's ever done it in Fishman Island. I also think that the world building was fantastic in this arc. This is on that S++ tier of just like how Oda can weave in these narratives that tie into like this main overarching story, but also have a self-contained little arc that fulfills itself internally. I don't know how he does it, how he manages to contribute so much to this epic narrative while also having this tiny little bubble of a story that also has all of its own inner workings, like just the geography of Fishman Island, how you get there, what it looks like, the culture, all the beliefs that the people have and their history. It's so well explored in the arc. It's really not even that long. It's like 50 chapters. The fact that he was able to have all of that be tied in so with a little bow on top, so perfectly, that I just don't know how he continues to do it. He is too smart for me. I'll just say that. He's too smart for me. I bow down, as always. With all that said, let me get into a few specific things that I really loved about the arc. So if you're watching now and like you don't want any spoilers, like if you're not caught up to this point yet, I would advise you to click off, because I'm going to be addressing specific story beats within this narrative that will be huge spoilers. So first off, I really loved the Straw Hat reunion. I loved seeing everyone get back together, and the whole fake Straw Hat crew thing was hilarious. I thought that was so funny. And my favorite bit that kind of came out of the fact that everyone was gone for the past 2 years, having their own adventures, was the whole Sanji thing where every time he sees a woman, he has a nosebleed that puts him in like critical condition. Oh, God, dude. And then the fact that it ties into the main story, like the actual narrative in a meaningful way, only Oda, dude. Only Oda can pull that off. That's fucking hilarious. And I loved it. I loved that little joke, that the running jokes in the arcs are always perfect, but they also had callbacks. While I'm on the topic of humor, they also had callbacks to a couple of jokes that were made in previous arcs. The one that's specifically coming to mind right now is when Frankie's showing off his whole robot transformation. And he's like doing his docking procedure, and Usopp and Chopper are like, oh my God. And it made me remember that back in Thriller Bark, they tried doing like a human docking thing. It was just a funny little callback that all the characters were like freaking out. Anytime that Frankie showed a new power, they were like, whoa, that's the coolest shit I've ever seen in my life. I love those little bits that just carry throughout the story. It was done so well. And to go back to a point that I talked about like briefly and a couple other things that I already talked about, I want to discuss all of the new powers that the Straw Hats got, because some of them are super cool. You know which one specifically I'm talking about if you've read this arc already. But before we get to the big kahuna, I want to talk about some of the smaller upgrades that people got. I loved seeing Sanji do like the air step thing that CP9 could do back in Water 7. And I also loved the way that it was brought in with this little like half-page flashback where he's remembering the horrors that he endured for the past 2 years. Obviously, the whole Frankie thing was great. I think it's really cool that Chopper can now do all of his different forms without having to eat the Rumble Ball, and that he has control over his monster form. All of that was super great. But you know who got the biggest glow up of all? And it's not Luffy, and it's not the women. My man Usopp. My man Usopp, bro. Look at this shredded golden god Chad lad warrior of the seas. That's my man Usopp. He's going off, baby. I haven't seen many people talk about this, but I love the way that his design changed. I mean, he is shredded, and his new attacks are actually pretty cool. The way he can like shoot vines and stuff that like ensnare people, and they like take forms. Dude, it's awesome. I loved his like power-ups. I didn't see a whole lot of people talking about that when I was like perusing, Reddit and whatnot after I read this arc. But that was one of my favorite parts, like one of my favorite upgrades that any of them got. But apart from my man Chad Lad Usopp, the big one. I mean, I gotta talk about it, dude. Luffy's hockey upgrade, dude. Oh my God, that was one of the most badass scenes I've seen in my entire goddamn life, bro. As they're being swarmed by 100,000 pirates, and Zoro and Sanji are standing there saying, we gotta fight 10,000 each. Luffy steps ahead, and he just stares at the crowd of 100,000, and 50K drop to the ground. Bro, he's too overpowered now. No, I take that back. He's not too overpowered, but he is super powered, bro. It was so hype, man. He is so much stronger now, and I loved also just seeing the way that he can like harden his body with the color of arms and all the different like cool powers that he has now. Hockey is so cool. And Luffy, he can kick some ass already. Now he's like, he's kind of scary. There's another thing that I want to talk about regarding Luffy, but I'm gonna jump to something else real quick. I'm gonna come back to Luffy. Another super important thing that we learned about him at the end of the arc. But first, let me get a couple other things in real quick. I really loved the whole flashback showing Fisher Tiger and the way that he gained his ideology and sort of his story, and how his ideology and his actions influenced so many other fishmen who then took those ideologies and either grew with them or stayed with them and then passed them on to the next generation. Perfect. I love the way that Oda addresses that sort of indoctrination that can happen of hatred that is a very real thing, is that, hatred can be passed down simply by telling people, you should hate this, you should hate that. That is something that happens in the real world. And the fact that he's doing that around such a heavy topic, I mean, I haven't seen it pulled off so well, and it dresses every angle that you could really think of within the viewpoint, realm. And I just think that was perfect. And seeing Fisher Tiger and how he influenced all the events of characters that we already knew way back when, like fucking Arlong. It's just great. It's just fantastic to give context to those characters and their beliefs, because for a long time you just think that Arlong is this asshole piece of shit that was prejudiced and racist and tyrannical, but then you realize that came from a place of his own experiences suffering from those things, and it doesn't make you like him, but it makes you understand him, which is just, I love when that can be pulled off in a story, and it's done perfectly here. Okay, I gotta calm down for a second. I've been walking around like screaming. I need a second to chill for a second. I want to talk about something else real quick. I really liked seeing how the Fishman Society perceived the Straw Hats at first, and then the way that their perception changed over time according to the circumstances, and how that also weaved into what I was just talking about. I think Jinbei had the right idea when he told Luffy, hey, you can't just rush in here. You can't just run in there and fight Hody and, take him out, because they're going to see you as the enemy. We have to get them to understand where you are coming from, and we have to let them see what is happening. And instead of just allowing all of this to go down naturally, Jinbei, he was doing 4D chess, bro. He was 4 steps ahead. He was thinking, what is this going to do regarding our society? How is this going to affect things? And I feel like that's a lot of times not addressed necessarily in a lot of stories, is that the main character bursts in and they beat the bad guy. This is a weird off the top of my dome example, but like in Marvel, when they destroy an entire fucking city, trying to beat the bad guy, and public perception of them doesn't necessarily change all that much. I know it's sort of addressed in like one of the movies at one point, but overall, it's not like really a factor within those movies. And I know that's not exactly a one-to-one comparison with One Piece, but I'm using that as sort of my, my showcase here of what I mean when I say that, is that a lot of times the effects on society and the way that people perceive the hero of a story is a lot of times, at least from what I've read, not entirely addressed or just sort of touched on, instead of actually dove into. Well, I don't know what I was doing there. But One Piece has always been good at that, and Fishman Island is a prime example of how Oda shows that, and shows how public opinion shifts according to the narrative that they are made aware of, and that is so well done within Fishman Island. And another sort of unit of subversion that Oda had in this arc was that, in the end, Luffy, for one, he doesn't actually save the island. It's not him, it's Shirahoshi, which is another thing that I'm going to talk about in a second. But he doesn't actually save the island, and at the end, he's not actually fighting someone as the big, you have to do this if you want to save them. He was destroying this enormous ship, Noah's Ark, and he was just trying to obliterate it, because again, as I said earlier, they just kind of stomped on their enemies in this arc. It wasn't ever truly a fight. I mean, Luffy's fight against Hody Jones was essentially an endurance test for Hody to see how long he could survive. And because I don't want to go off of this topic too much, because this is by far my favorite part of the entire arc, I want to talk about Shirahoshi, and I want to talk about Robin going to the Poneglyph and the information she brought back, because this is the shit that I love in One Piece. Bro, I love all of this history and all these mysteries that are sprinkled all throughout the story, and then we slowly get the answers, and we just keep getting more. And God, dude, this is my favorite. This is what I live for, dude. This gives me life. As soon as I saw Robin on the bus, and she's like, there's a poneglyph here, and it has to do with the 100-year void, I almost threw my iPad across the room, because I was reading it on my iPad. I almost threw it across the room because I was so hyped, dude. This is my shit, man. I'm getting a little too excited. So what we learn in this arc is that however long ago, like 800 years ago, whenever the 100-year void was, someone named Joy Boy, which is the first time I'm ever hearing that name as far as I'm aware, someone named Joy Boy made a promise to the fishmen that about something regarding Noah's Ark. I don't know what that is. I don't know. I have no theory yet. I'm sure I'll have one eventually, but as of right now, I have no idea. But it is interesting to me that this new character showed up and is seemingly, or not showed up, but they were mentioned that they seemingly plays a pretty big role within this whole history thing. And then we learned the big mic drop moment. Shirahoshi, princess of this Fishman kingdom, is one of the 3 ancient weapons that has been mentioned so many times now throughout the story. She is the ancient weapon Poseidon. She can control the Neptunians, and that is fucking crazy because those things, I mean, if you have an army of Neptunians, you can basically destroy the entire planet, which is the whole point of the ancient weapons, is that they are that powerful. And that gets me thinking, are the other 2 weapons also people with like special abilities, or are they like actually just weapons, like objects? I think it's Pluton and Uranus. I'm pretty sure that's what the other one is, but I don't remember. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, but I'm curious now. Are they also going to be people that we meet along the way? I need answers. And also going back, I mentioned it just briefly earlier. Apparently, Luffy can understand the Neptunians like on some weird level, and they are aware of his awareness. And then they also showed the whole thing where it was like a little flashback where Roger could apparently also understand Neptunians. And another thing, I just thought of this. Another thing, when we saw a flashback at the very beginning of Rayleigh and Roger meeting for the first time, the straw hat belonged to Roger. The straw hat that Luffy is wearing used to belong to Roger, further solidifying the parallels that Oda keeps drawing in this narrative between those 2 characters. I need more information. I feel like I don't know enough about Roger. And also, how did Shanks get the straw hat? Why did he decide to give it to Luffy? What is going on here? I need answers. I need them. I'm beginning to form some crackpot theories about what's going on as I keep reading and I continue to get more mysteries. And I'm losing my mind, bro. I feel like I'm a conspiracy theorist. I feel like I should start wearing a tinfoil hat when I'm making these videos. But anyway, I don't really have a whole lot to say in this area. I'm just super excited that I got all this information and I am desperate for more. This is what keeps me going, man. I can't stop reading when I get these chapters. And it's always just tacked on to the end of an arc, and it's always perfect, man. It's just enough to give me a little morsel of the story that Oda is withholding from me, and I love it. I'm full steam ahead now. I am already a few chapters into Punk Hazard, and shit is already going down in that arc. It is crazy. I cannot believe some of the stuff that has already gone down, and I think I'm like 6 chapters in, but it's crazy. It is going off the rails already. So I am super excited to make a video on that next. Expect that probably early next week, because I am just kind of plowing straight ahead with One Piece. I don't plan on taking another break anytime soon, because I just got done with a break after Marineford, and I just don't want to. I just want to read and never stop, and I'm kind of scared of catching up, if I'm being honest. So yeah, let me know if you enjoyed this crazy-ass rant that I just went on, because I plan on doing more of them in a similar fashion. This might have been a little too high energy, I'm not sure. This is just naturally how I feel when I'm talking about One Piece, so I don't know how else to convey my reaction. So anyway, yeah, let me know what you feel about Fishman Island, whether you're an old-time reader and you've been doing this for a while, or if you also just happen to be reading Fishman Island for the first time, just like me. Let me know what your reaction is. I'd love to have a chat down in the comments about our thoughts and feelings. And until next time, take care of yourself. I hope you had a great Halloween and a great October. And I hope you're staying safe and staying healthy. You guys are fucking awesome. I love all of you. And until next time, goodbye. See ya. Good night.